Ladies, here we are again, of course, with the amazing Lee Tannyware and myself hovering in the background on this week's Extreme Business Set Mind series. Yeah, let me say that again. Set Mind, not mindset. Set Mind series. So important that you understand the importance or the difference between the both. We may touch on that on this series. If not, we'll touch on it later on another show. But this week, Lee, I have one of the most controversial, misunderstood, and over-exaggerated, blame everybody else topic that runs through, I'm going to say, the undercurrent of business. And that is, this week's topic, my friend, is business burnout, the reality and ingredient. Now, the reason why I want to bring this topic in, burnout, is because, Lee, everybody blames everybody else for what it is, for how it is they're suffering. And here's what I learned from working with you. And one of the first, I'm going to say, highlighters or memory tattoos that I had from your wisdom, which was, Paul, so many people are self-medicating in their own business. And I'm like, wow, that gave me so many answers to my own burnout. Because I lost 3 months of my life through burnout, and I did. And it's a real odd thing, Lee, because you physically, bear in mind, semi-pro cyclist, I'm used to digging deep. I'm used to asking stress on my body. I physically couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't think, couldn't talk. I didn't shower for weeks. My mother came down one day and she cried on the side of the bed and said, just get one leg out, Paul. Get one leg out. Wasn't eating, wasn't drinking. My wife took me to about 6 A&Es. I thought I was dying. It was a hard thing to understand. GPs don't get it. Nothing comes up in your blood. But here's the thing. When you use the word self-medicating, I was like, wow, I took myself into burnout and I blamed everything and everybody else. The reality is that burnout is a reality check if you look at it without ego. And here we are. So let's go into it. Business burnout, entrepreneurial burnout, self-burnout, say it as we wish. But where are we with this, Lee? Let's go.
Right. It's because it sounds like I echo stuff sometimes. There's so many facets to it. So, clarity. So there's inside you, your skin in, and there's outside you. Outside you, you can't control. So what I mean, what, and that in a roundabout way, I'm going to contradict myself, but you can't control what others are going to do, nor should you, because they breathe for them and you breathe for you. You think for you, they think for them. So to control the external world, which is what a lot of people want to do, and I feel it's the conflict between outside and inside, or inside and outside. That the outside world isn't showing up the way you want it to. The reality is not being, let's say, manifested. Let's say we have this naive view, belief, opinion, desire, need that outside's going to show up how we want it to. And then we get like these reality checks where other people don't do exactly what we want.
Wow.
So you understand what I mean? Where it sort of comes back to expectations. So, and there's so many different levels to it, because if you're in it, you won't hear it that way. You're in it, you think, well, it's easy for you to say. But inside is your domain. That's the place you have what some might call control, and it isn't control. It's an equilibrium. It's a unity. It's a synergy between like mind, heart, spirit, and your physical being. Good communication, good values, without intention, because you can't have good communication and good values just for the premise of getting what you want, because that then isn't good communication and good values. That's control, sort of narcissistic communication, really.
Oh, wow. That's a huge, but such a powerful statement. You're right. Narcissistic communication. And that that can be on so many levels also.
Oh,
it can
definitely.
Be extreme, but even we could say there's soft narcissism. Is that the word, even narcissistic?
Yeah, because and really when I was going to say, if you look at it like this, implying I know all, which I don't. But it's, imagine your body is a car.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so put that analogy to the side for a minute. We're in a car. Yeah, we're driving through London. Yeah, on a busy Saturday afternoon. Yeah, and with all the people on the road that's paid the congestion charge, and they're all, and there's bikes, there's pedestrians, there's dogs, there's buses, there's lorries, there's everything, vans, motorbikes, all of that, traffic lights, and you got to navigate through. Would it be stressful? Yes. Especially if you've got time against you. You've got to be at a certain place, and everybody, it seems and feels and appears like everybody's in your way. They're not deliberately in your way. They're just sharing the same space, and we're all trying to navigate through it at the same time. But for somebody else to get what they want, sometimes we feel we haven't got what we want. So imagine now, as we're going through London, and just as we entered London, it said start. And when we get to our destination, it says finish. And everybody's lined up. Everybody that's going into London's lined up like it's the London Marathon. And this is just a Saturday afternoon. We're just doing a trip into London, maybe to have a scone and a cup of tea with my friend Paul. And I've got all these people trying to compete for the same space, trying to get to where they're going. And they might be going for a cup of tea and a scone, But the illusion that all of these people are in my way or holding me back, stopping me, that isn't what's happening. But that's how it can feel to us inside. Now, when these things keep happening every day, it appears like the outside world is getting in our way. No. But it can feel that way, seem that way. As soon as we take that out of now, back to the analogy that my body is my car, I'm driving my car around every day. Now, I think in some ways COVID's added to it, not intentionally, because now, a bit like me, I do a lot of my stuff virtually. I used to get up at 4 a.m. in the morning, travel to the other end of the country, maybe speak at a big event, or go in and spend a full day training in a company, and then come back and be home at 11 o'clock. And I loads of times I've got to stay in Dublin, but if I'd stayed in, I could be going back the next morning. Up at 3:30, 4 a.m. Wouldn't get home to 11. Had probably half an hour with Ros. Wouldn't have seen the kids. They were in bed, and then get up again and go. And I could be doing that 3 or 4 days a week. To have 3 or 4 hours sleep for me was nothing. But I've never been, I won't say a great sleeper, but I've always 3 things I don't like: sleeping, eating, and going to the toilet. They're all 3 things that take my time away. So the point is, back to the burnout side. When it feels like the real world is getting in the way of us, then we compound that into the future, and we can see it's much of the same. I mean, what's the point? What's the point?
When we think about the ingredients, and this is what really came to front of mind from my conversations, and also being lucky to be part of the audience that listens to your philosophies on a regular basis, which is, I realized there were 3 ingredients that made up for my burnout, which was perception of expectation, blame culture, and focus on lack. So let me say that again for our viewers and listeners: perception of expectation, blame culture, and focus on lack. I didn't realize that those ingredients were actually fueling my burnout. And Lee, it's hard to explain. Burnout is like the worst hangover, dose of flu, and virus you'll ever experience 100 times over, and you can't pick it up anywhere. So those 3 ingredients, let's just dive into those. Perception of expectation, you kind of give that you rounded into that, but blame culture and focus on lack. These things people just don't recognize themselves.
Yeah. Well, the challenge is, let's take the blame culture one to start with. We'll cover all three.
Yeah.
The blame culture, and it's as soon as we go outside our skin and say it's John's fault, Mary's fault. Now, if it's done with intent, malice of forethought, and all these people are in London, Paul's going to London on Saturday. He's going for a cup of tea and a clean cake with Lee. We'll all show up just to piss him off. Now, when it's done like that, yeah, now it's not blame. It's actually reality. All these people are here. So then you have to ask yourself, well, what did you do back then to cause all these people to feel so motivated now to get in your way?
Oh, wow. Wow. God, yeah. Or not get in your way. In a sense of
or even better, that they all went, oh, Paul, he's going to here. Paul's a good guy. Everybody to the left, yeah. There you go, Paul. I mean, and really, which ain't going to happen. Mm-hmm. However, focus on lack and blame culture. So now we're cross-pollinating too. So, and I'm going to throw a piece of my life in here, which I think will cover both. About 12 years ago, yeah, I'm just trying, it would be 12 years ago, because Livy's 12 now, Olivia, we call her Livy. When she was born, I was in a wheelchair. Yeah, the day she was born, and how I got in a wheelchair, I had a very bad accident, and they said I'd never walk again. So I was rushed to hospital and literally put in a bag, like an oven-ready turkey, yeah, all pumped up with air, and I was basically transported from one end of the country to the other, and I had to wait in traction for about 2 weeks, yeah, because the bloke I needed to see, one person in the country, and they weren't even sure if he could deal with the break I had. If not, I would have to go to the US or Russia. So I waited for 2 weeks in traction, couldn't move my leg, and this guy come in, and he with a few of his entourage, like junior doctors, surgeons, whatever. Good morning, Mr. Tunney. How are you? I said, good morning, sir. And he said, you're going to have the operation tomorrow morning. I said, brilliant. He said, where the break is, he said, you're most likely never going to walk again. He said, if you do it, would be with a Zimmer frame, a stick, or a crutch. So, have you got any questions? So, and that's basically how the conversation went. Good morning, lovely day, straight into it. So I said, and in real time, I went, only one, sir. He said, oh. I said, well, I'll be able to skydive. He said, sorry. I said, well, would I be able to skydive? I said, now, possibly not on my own, jump out and land on both feet. I said, perhaps in tandem and landing very, very gently down on my buttocks, will I be able to skydive? He went, well, I can't see any reason why not. I said, oh, brilliant. I said, I couldn't before. and everything went quiet. And now I wanted to create this space to have a conversation rather than a conflict.
Yeah.
And he said, I don't think you understand, Mr. Tunney. I said, no, I don't think you do, sir. I said, I'm not interested in walking. So I gave up walking a long, long time ago, sir. I gave up crawling as well. So I'm interested in running, jumping, skipping, climbing. Not interested in walking or crawling, sir. So I said, when you're going to do my operation, I said, if you can't go in, I said, give me 100%. I said, the way you got to look at it, I said, every operation you've done up to now, I said, you've done to do this operation. I said, after my operation, I said, every dinner you go to, I said, I'm going to be your after dinner topic. I said, everything you've learned in your life, I said, you've done, I said, to do this operation. So I don't work on the reverse of an idea. I said, if you can't give me 100%, I said, the best future I've got with you is a wheelchair, a stick, a crutch, or a Zimmer frame. I said, I don't want that. I said, find me somebody else that can bring their life experience and give me what I need. I said, I don't care anybody else you've worked on. I said, I will be the person that will walk again.
Wow.
So I said, have I got 100%? And he went, well, yeah. So I said, brilliant. I said, how long will it take me before I can walk? He said, you won't be able to walk yourself for 3 months. I said, then I'll walk into you. I said, in 3 months. And I did. So when it comes back to outside and inside, the only thing I'm in control of is me. Now, whatever I decide in these moments creates my future in future moments. So I can accept the expert, and you can say, well, Lee, I just think it's my body. Yeah. And I said to him, there's a lot more involved in that conversation, but basically that was the summary of it. And I said to him, I've got too many mouths to feed. I've got too many people that rely on me. I said, I ain't got time to lay down. I said, I've been standing up all my life. I ain't got time to lay down. So I said, if you can't give me 100%, don't work on me.
Wow. So, and Lee, let me just come in on that, because I know our viewers and listeners will have a ton of questions, regarding that conversation. But you influenced, motivated, and give that man a completely different perception of outcome that became reality. Well,
surely that's what it's my future he's talking about. It's me he's talking about. You can hear it like, well, you're talking to a medical expert. But like, in my world, this is my body. Now, you could say you're in denial, Lee. No, I can walk, run. I've done Tough Mudder, I think, 4 times since it. 22 kilometres, 22 obstacles.
Wow.
I've climbed Croagh Patrick, which is about 3 or 4 miles from me. And that's like one of Mayo's biggest mountains. It's where St. Patrick is supposed to spend 40 days and 40 nights. It's what Paddy's Day is, yeah. He slept supposedly on the mountain right beside us. And so I can go into doubt, fear, insecurity. I can medicate myself and go, well, yeah, I'll pretend, and I'll hope. No, you can't be in 2 camps. You've got to be either in one or the other. And if you don't get what you set out 3 months before, yeah, which I did, everything I done, now bear in mind I had 50, they cut right through to my thigh bone, took a graft out of my thigh bone to rebuild my pelvis, put 57 staples in my leg.
Wow.
Now, let me tell you another story. I'm on a train going up, sitting in a wheelchair. And this is probably a very controversial story. And I'm sitting in a wheelchair with my son at the time, I think he was 16, in the disabled section of the train. About, I don't know, 7 o'clock in the morning. And up further was a couple of what some might call ruffians halfway up the carriage, playing their music. Didn't bother me. And then it was quite loud. And this chap on the other side, suited and booted, obviously, it looked like he was a commuter, said, can you turn it down? Yeah, and politely, not turn that down. He said, can you turn it down, please? And this bloke stood up, finger out, teeth out, shouting and raving at him. And the lady said, would you leave him alone? And he went, do you want some as well? Right, and this was like very aggressive. And I said to my son, Tom, I said, I'll be back in a minute. Now, for me to get up the train, I was on one leg using the headrests of the train as like crutches to get up to them. And I went up and I turned it down. I did turn it down, turned it off. And the bloke, he stood up and stuck his head forward. I said, oh, don't do that with me. I said, I got past fear. I said, when I was about 8 years old. I said, you're going to turn it off. I said, I've turned it off, so you're going to leave it off. I said, you're going to apologise to him and you're going to apologise to her. I said, you're going to take your mate. I said, you're going to go up between carriages and not disturb anybody. And he had his canines out. I said, oh, you don't understand the gravity of the situation. I said, I'm standing there on one leg, 57 staples in the other. I said, I only had an operation about 3 weeks ago. I said, I can't put any weight on my left leg. I said, if I do, I'm guaranteed never to walk again. Not only that, if I put any weight on it, it's going to go out my back. There's nothing to hold my leg in. But I cannot sit there while you act like this here. So I said, now you understand the gravity of the situation. I'm not playing. I mean exactly what I say. So either have some respect and get some manners, say sorry. I said, and it's sorry, sir, sorry, ma'am. Get your tape recorder, get your mate, and get up between carriages. Am I clear? And he went, I'm sorry. I said, not to me. And he went with his mate. And the point of the story, you can hear it as aggression. And aggression, if you don't stand for something. Yeah. And the last bit in that story is my son, who was 16, was sitting down the end. And I said to him, I said, if you look down there, I said, down in the disabled section, my son's there. I said, he's not worried about me. I said, I'm standing here at my weakest. I said, I will not stand for this, whether I'm on one leg or two. At some point in your life, yeah, and in my life, it's been that way all my life, you have to stand and be counted. And when you stand and be counted, you're seen in the outside world. So when you're in London, and it's not an aggressive thing, instinctively, people seem to get out of your way. Because they go, well, like this bloke, he ain't messing. Same thing applies when, like, my son, Tom, and he's like, how is this relevant? Yeah, but it is, I swear to you, relevant. My son, Tom, only 4 or 5 years ago, bear in mind, my kids have grown up with what some might say my philosophy. Who breathes for you? Who thinks for you? Who decides for you? Whose life are you living? Yeah. If not yours, then whose? That doesn't mean, and they know they've got no right in anybody else's breath or heartbeat unless it's shared. You can inspire other people, but that's control. You can motivate other people, that's control. Now, if you do it without any desire to do it, that's wholesome. If your intent with your language is to inspire and motivate, then your intent is to control somebody else's spirit and biology.
Wow.
So when you say something, do something, if you do it with the intent, malice aforethought of inspiration and motivation. Now, it's different when you got like Les Brown and they're paid to go and do that, and people are coming to an event for that. That's what they're coming for. That's a bit like saying that's on the menu. When you're doing it with intent for you to have control, when you do it with the intent for them to have control, totally different concept. When you inspire for others to be motivated and driven for their life, that's not control. But when you inspire and motivate because you want them on your team, and you go, well, no, that is pure control. Now, how, when you pull this together, back to Tom. Tom crushed his hand in a high-ab. It's like a bit like a crane arm on the back of a lorry. Okay. Yeah, and he's a tree surgeon. So he cut all these trees down. They've got this big crane, big net down, and they're throwing all the branches in, hooking this like cargo net up. And he leant against it as it concertinaed in, and it sucked his hand in and crushed like 2 of his fingers. The bloke he was working with phoned me. Because the bloke he was working with, I've known like 30 years, 40 years, maybe. Like, we've done loads of work together. He was working with Tom that day, and he phoned me because he felt responsible. Now, at that time, we didn't know whether he lost 2 of his fingers. Now, Ros got the call, and Ros is sort of starting to panic and that. And this bit's very important to me, same as when I'm laying in hospital and they tell me my future. It's not I'm never going to walk again. He just told me every interaction for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And you might say, well, you're not man enough to take it, Lee. Oh, I can take it if it's real. But if it's opinion or imagination, I've got to check in with me. I can't allow his words. He don't know what's going on inside me. Never in our history, if we've seen this break, we can do our best, but you're going to have arthritis. I'm going to have arthritis 12 years later. Don't even plan on having any. But Pat Doyle, a friend of mine, was telling my wife that my son's hand is over in the hospital and he's taken there now and his hand's crushed. You can imagine what Ros felt. Yeah. And at the time, I think it was about, I don't know how many years ago, Paul. Tom was about 22, it's about 5 years ago. In those moments, we've got choice. We've got organic, what I call organic, nature, nurture, reaction, response choice. That to me is not choice. That's pure control on an organic level. I'm going to be the sum up of my licorice all sorts lifestyle.
Oh, wow.
What I've said, what I've done, it's up to me to decide. So I'm hearing, and in that moment, I know that Dad's needed more so now than ever. We're all friends needed, leaders needed. Because I can't go around telling everybody, no, you got that wrong, that. No, I keep my nose out of other people's lives until I have to poke my nose in it. And the phone was put down, and Ross said, just before COVID, she said, I'll go over. So I said, no, I'll go over, love, that's right. I said, a lot of the kids were there. I said, who wants to come with me? She said, oh, you can't take them over. They won't let them in at the back of casualty. I said, who would like to come with me? And Isaac went, I'll go. I said, brilliant. And you can't take them. I said, now, Ros is in stress, and now I'm taking, whoever wants to come with me into the hospital, I don't want the kids seeing this hand. And now, at that stage, Ros was not impressed with me. And I think it was Alex and Isaac, and we got in the car and we drove to see Tom. And then A&E should have been all locked down. They wouldn't let Pat in. It's back to London, see, the streets are full. I know, logically, I know when I go there, the doors to the back where he is are locked.
Yeah.
I might get in, but I won't be able to take 2 kids with me. And if I go in to see my bigger boy, who's going to look after my 2 kids? You think, well, I could leave them with Pat. I never done any of that thought. As far as I'm concerned, I'm going to see my son. Yeah, no mountain, no doctor, no door. That's going to stop me. But I'm not going to be aggressive, because when I show up, the doors are going to open for me.
Yeah.
Why? Because in my mind, the doors are not shut to me. The outside world is not there to show up for me. But when I show up in the outside world, the doors will open. Why? Because my son's hand. And you go, well, you're not a doctor, Lee. No, I ain't. And I went there and the doors were open. We walked through and Pat come with me, who'd been there in like half an hour or so before, and he couldn't get in. I said, I'm going to see Tom. Pat, do you want to come with me? He said, oh, they won't let you in. I said, do you want to come with me? All right. And we walked straight in. And I saw Tom. I said, all right, Tom. He went, yeah. And his hands all wrapped up in like some sort of sheet, and he's holding out blood all down his arm. I said, whose hand is it, son? This is from about 30 foot away, walking towards him. He said, oh, I know it's mine. I said, who breathes for you? He said, I do. What's the future? My hand's going to be perfect. I said, brilliant. That was all he said about his hand. And on the way to the hospital, I said to Isaac and Alex, why did I bring you? Why did I want you to come with me? So we can take the mickey. I said, yeah, take the mickey, but don't take the mickey out of his hand. Act totally normal with him. Do not allow what you see to change your view of him or his future. Wow. Speak to him how you would have spoke to him prior to the accident, and think of him and feel of him of how you would have prior to the accident. Do not allow what you see to go into his future. Yeah. And this is where it comes back to burnout or blame. It's his body. When the nurse took the sheet off, she went, and she was shocked. One of his fingers looked like it just needed to go in the bin. No reaction from Tom. And we sat there and then he had to go to plastics in another hospital and everything like that. And about 2 weeks later, Ross and I were going out. We've been out a few times, but 2 weeks later on the evening we were going out. And she hadn't said nothing. She hadn't spoke to me about it. And because they were in fear, doubt, insecurity. I wasn't. Tom wasn't. But Tom's finger now was starting to smell.
Yeah.
And he couldn't move it. And I don't even remember where we were. We turned the corner, we were going out for dinner, and we were just before the fire station, yeah? The fire station was over there. We're turning right about 200 foot before the fire station. I'm just turning out, and she went out of the blue. You do know that Tom's finger's starting to smell when he can't move it. and I'm driving, and what would you do in that? So, like the normal thing, the organic one would be, no, really. And you go straight into it. I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. Because if I do that, I give up my autonomy.
Yeah.
I give up my future. If it's all preordained and destined, I mean, like, what's the point of me being here? I mean, I just could watch it on Netflix.
Yeah.
So I said, oh, fair enough. When we got home, was up until that point, I hadn't asked. Why would I ask? As far as I'm concerned, I know what the future is going to be. His hand's going to be perfect. I said, Mum said your finger's starting to smell. He went, yeah. He said, they're on about cutting it off. I was all right. I said, she said she can't move it. He said, no. And it was more, I think it was this one, the index one. The other one was healing well. It was the index one. I said, is that what you want? He said, well, of course it ain't. I said, well, then stay true to your decision with every part of your existence. What do you want? You can't focus on a future that's not yours. Yeah. And what I mean by that is you got one future. You can live in drama, trauma, and armor and dread it all, or you can know that your future's safe, regardless of your education, regardless of your circumstances. Now, if somebody's imposing on you, using their strength, their will, their words to control the autonomy of you, that's a different world. But taking it that that's not happening, and everyday people like, without malice or forethought, were going, yeah, Paul, yeah, I can't see your hand getting, yeah, can't. Now, I remember there's a testimony on my YouTube channel from a bloke called Eric Fitzpatrick, good mate of mine, author of the book Persuade on Purpose. First time I met him at an event, he had both his wrists in plaster. He'd fallen over and broken both his wrists and his arm. Now, he just got it, like, he'd had him, and I don't know, about 3 or 4 weeks later, I never knew him when I saw his wrist broken, and then I saw him, and then he'd had one in plaster, one out plaster, and we're talking, in a group environment. I saw him in Dublin, and then we were at an event. It was a workshop, 3-day workshop, and he was talking to another guy, and he said about his wrists. He said, oh, yeah, now this one I'm never going to be able to use properly, whatever. And I questioned him on it. That's what his testimonial is. I questioned him on it. Because he was already decided about his arm.
Yeah.
And the reason I mentioned the testimony, because it covers what I'm saying here. If you don't know your future, then who does?
Wow. And that's so powerful, Lee, because, it says so much. It says so much about our decisions for today that are making tomorrow. And that's quite a almost old-fashioned thing to say, because everybody knows, if you're doing what you did yesterday, today, tomorrow's not going to change. But you've taken it to a different level of true authenticity to yourself, to your following day. Your son's finger.
Perfect.
What?
Perfect. And my it's perfect. You see, and you might think, why are these stories got anything to do with it? Well, his son Jay, mate, bear in mind we got 11 kids, so I mean, and we got like 6 boys. Always, I mean, bumps and bruises and whatever. Girls as well. I mean, Poppy plays and Livy, and Poppy, William, Livy, most of them all play rugby, do karate, whatever. So there's bruises, knocks, bangs, whatever. Jake was messing about with Isaac. Jake's now 14, yeah? Is that right? 15 now. But when he was about 7, he got his finger in the shut of the door, and he was messing with his brother, and his brother shut the door and chopped his finger off, the top of his finger. There's a long story to that, but I'll take it to this. The triage nurse said, yeah, they won't sew it back on. They just take a little bit of skin off the end of the tip that we saved, and they sew it over the stump. So the doctor said the same thing, and then we had to go to plastics in another hospital. And like, I never changed the future in my world yet. And you might hear something powerful. I'm not saying that. I think we all have the same thing, as long as you hold on to the future you want. Now, you can't live in dreamland. Okay. You can't go into an imagined future, which is what I think burnout is. It's looking at the wrong future and interacting or somebody. So you're either doing it or somebody's doing it to you. And it boils down, you're not living the life you want to live. And that might be out of circumstances. It might be because of bills, mortgage, this and that. But how did you get to that place? Now, so it's my fault. It's not about blame. Realise how did you get to that place? Because you took a few wrong directions on the way. Now you're there, nothing we can do. It might be 2 or 3 months for us to get back to the right turning, to take the right turning. Some people have been on the wrong road for a long time. And that's not out of badness. We've all done it. So with Jake's finger, it was his middle finger, and he loved it at the time because he kept showing it to everybody, which finger, show every, So he was only about 7, so it gave me a good excuse to put his middle finger up. But anyway, took in the plastics. They said to be there at 8 o'clock in the morning. I was there at about 6:45. Spoke to the nurse, and I told her my future. I said, they told me to be here as early as possible. I said, I've got his finger in the pot here, and it was packed in ice and that, not touching the ice. And I said, I was told if I got here early to see plastics, there's a good chance to be able to save his finger. Now, all the way along, we've been told they couldn't save his finger. The doctor's sitting down as in plastic surgeon, 8 o'clock. He said, you're here really early. As he said, we don't normally see anybody till 9. She said, but the nurse told me to see you first thing. She said, so anyway, looking at his finger, he said, we're just going to take a bit of skin off it, sew it on the stump. He said, all will be good. I never once questioned him. Sitting there, and that isn't what I want. I want his finger sewn back on. And then Dr. Kelly walked in. He said, good morning. And who have we have here? Jake. Hello, Jake. And is this Dad? Hi, Dad. And so what are we up to? And the doctor said to him what had happened. And have you got the finger? Yeah, brilliant. He said, and what do you think is we're going to send him down to Theatre 2, take a bit of skin off the stump, off the finger that they've saved, and sew on the stump. He said, no, you're not. He said, you're going to sew the finger back on. He said, you're going to make an insertion in the palm of the hand. He said, you're going to take the top bit of skin off the top of the finger, and stitch it into the palm of the hand. So it's being stitched, the tip of the finger is being stitched into the palm of the hand, and it's been sewn back on. He said, Dad, that's the best chance he's got. And he said, other than that, he's going to be walking around with a piece of mission off his finger. He said, we won't know for a couple of weeks. He said, but how old are you? He said, and Jake, when I'm 7. He said, with his age and that. He said, it stands a good chance. You'd never know there was anything wrong with his finger. But I never once questioned that. I never once bought into the reality. It was a red light in London. Oh, red light. Oh, bloody red lights. I didn't go into red lights. It's going to happen. Don't expect all your lights to be green. If they're green, I mean, you're having a really good day. Red, 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 red. I mean, it's a traffic light. Don't get caught up in it. Doctor says, no, don't get caught up in it. What do you mean, no? No, I don't do those conversations. Because that's their reality, not mine. I ain't going to try and change their reality because then I become a problem and then I become like a dominant force. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I just moved along. So burnout or whatever goes through, you've got to know your future, because if you don't, who does? Now, if you're 6, 7, 12, 13, you might need mums and dads' help or a guardian's help or nan and granddad's, whoever, somebody that has good intentions for your future. What's your future? And if it looks dark and dreary, open the blinds. It's easier said than done. Well, there you go, judging the future again in your ability, innit?
Yeah.
It's your future. The only one in charge of it is you. That doesn't mean you. I mean everybody. Mm-hmm. The one that breathes for you, thinks for you, decides for you, imagines for you, feels for you. At this moment in time, you might be a line of red traffic lights. And it might look like that forever. It ain't. It ain't. You just got to change your focus. Whether you can't get a bed out of, like your leg out of bed. A lot of people want to get their leg out of bed to start a new day. No, get your leg out of bed and start a new life. Realise tomorrow is yours.
Yeah.
Every tomorrow from now is yours, regardless of what's happened, regardless of who's been toxic to you, whether you've been beaten, whether you ain't got a leg, a toe, nothing. I don't care what's missing. If you're just ahead, tell me your future. Don't dismiss you from reality, because as soon as you quit, they call it, it's not quitting. It's accepting a reality that wasn't yours. Yeah. That's what quitting is. Quitting is accepting a reality it isn't yours. What's the reality you want? You just been on the wrong road. You just got to come back to the roundabout and take the right turning.
And this has been such a fantastic series again. It's been just amazing. We are out of time, or come to the end of time for sure. You know, and it's strange because I crushed 3 of my fingers also when I was 12-year-old.
Let's have a look.
Yeah, well, they were these 3 guys, and look at them. Bath our little dodgy nail there. They were flat, and I remember saying, "Do you know what? That can work itself out," and it did. And it did, and I'm fully functioning, and they didn't know. I remember the smelly fingers, remember the black fingers, and all those. Yeah. Well, here I am.
But just on that last bit, yeah. No disrespect to anybody. No doctor's ever healed your body. They evade the healing process. Your body is organic, but it's organic with your emotion and decisions. So wherever you are, yeah. Know the future you want, but don't try and make it happen. Just commit to it 100%. I couldn't sit on a train today and have somebody being disrespectful or aggressive without me doing so. I don't know how to exclude myself from reality. When I need to show up, I'll show up. If I don't, I'll sit there and mind my own business. But if everybody else had the opportunity, a carriage full had the opportunity to do it, they didn't. And me, I'm at my weakest. And my son never stood up for me. You can hear that in the negative positive. Yeah. He never excluded me from my responsibility. He didn't go, "Oh, it's all right, Dad, I'll deal with it. You got your leg." My son didn't think that way. I said to him, "I'll be back in a minute." He never went, "Oh, Dad, don't go up there." I went, and I said to them, and I was half out of the carriage, "You look back there, my son ain't looking up here." My son, there was nothing in my son's future that distrusted his father or his father's ability. Don't put anything in your future to distrust you or your ability. And if there is, that's what you need to remove. I don't care who's saying it. Yeah. You breathe for you, you think for you, you decide for you, this is your life. Whether you're in burnout, I don't care if you're in the dumpster with life on top of you. Yeah, that means, you're under pressure. Diamonds come from pressure.
So true, my friend. They do. When your back's against the wall, that's when you're at your best. It is. It's been beautiful, Lee. Thank you ever so much for an amazing Set Mind series again. And of course, all you viewers out there, all the people listening, please subscribe, like, and add comments in. Lee, myself, we're always here. We have your back. You will find Lee Tunnyware all over LinkedIn. Just put him in there. You'll find this handsome man in there. You find myself, Paul Rees Lifestyle Business Design, in LinkedIn also. But please comment up, and we will be back, of course, next week with another amazing extreme business set mind series with, of course, the fantastic Lee Tunnyware and myself in the background, Paul Rees. Happy days. And until then, we're going to say bye for now.